How's it going, math class? I'm going to go over topic 6, lesson 5 today, finding the percent of a number. These will look familiar from 6.4 because 6.4 was dealing with this just with estimation. This is finding the exact answer for these. So one thing that's going to be helpful is this phrase right here. Oops, didn't want to erase. This phrase right here is over of, and that will make a little more sense in just a second when we use it. So is over of means the portion of the number sentence or the word problem that is attached or part of the is part, and again, it's going to make a little more sense in just a second, goes on the top of a fraction. So is goes over the of part. All right, and that's going to make sense in just a second. So we're going to look at this one, a little simpler one with some of these numbers to start off with, but the process is going to be the same the whole time. So this should look familiar. Again, when we estimated, we would change the 8% to something maybe probably 10%, then change that to 1/10, and then we'd probably keep this at 20, and then we'd go from there. So this time we're going to find the exact answer to this type of problem. So using this is over of method, we would look at this and say 8%. So we can write 8% as a fraction. Remember, we're trying to be exact. So all fractions are over 100. So 8% as a percent, or as a fraction, is 8/100ths, or 8 over 100. Now we have to figure out where to put this 20. Is it going to go on the top of this fraction in the numerator, or is it going to go on the bottom in the denominator? All right, so we're just setting up an equivalent fraction here. So we're just doing equivalent fractions again. So 8% is 8/100ths. So we need to find out what's 8% of 20. So is that going to be 10? Is 10 8% of 20? Is it 20? Is it 20 out of 20? Is it 2 out of 20? What is it? So 8% of 20. So this of 20 is on the bottom, right? Of goes on the bottom. So let's put 20 on the bottom. And then we're going to see that is, we don't know what the is part of this is. That's why there's a question, even a question mark there. So this one makes it a little easier to notice where that should go. So is goes on the top. So we don't know what the is portion of this problem is. So we are trying to find if 8 out of 100, what is it out of 20? So there's two ways you could do this. You could say, okay, how do I go from 100 to 20? Well, I would divide by 5. So then I need to also divide 8 by 5. So that will definitely get us the answer. The other way to do it, and this is the way that I'll show you because it will work even when this part is not nice and even. So sometimes it might be 17 on the bottom. So 100, to get from 100 to 17 is not super easy. It's nothing that you can do easily. So you'd have to use the second method. So what we're going to do is cross multiply. All right, so we're going to do 8 times 20. All right, so 8 times 20. Right, and I know that's going to be 160, because 8 times 2 is 16, with a 0 there. So now we have 160. We're going to set it equal to. Now we're going to do 100 times x. Now, we can't really do anything there, because 100 times x, we don't know what x is. If x is 50, then we could do 100 times 50. If x is 3, we could do 100 times 3. So we don't know what x is, so we're just going to write it out algebraically as 100x, or 100 times x, because remember, if this is connected to it, it means multiplication. So we're almost there. Now we just want to solve for x. Remember, the whole point is trying to find what goes up here. So using our past lessons, we're going to solve for x. So we know we need to get x all by itself. So we're going to do the inverse operation. So right now we're doing 100 times x. So now we're going to divide. So we're going to divide to get rid of that, cancel itself out. So 100 divided by 100, and now we need to do the same thing to both sides of the equation. So now 160 divided by 100, and that will get us to x. So if I do, I'll move myself over here. So 160 divided by 100 goes in one time. We have 60 left over. Let's get a decimal going on in here. Make sure we get the decimal up top. Bring down that 0. It's going to be nice and neat. 100 into 600 is 6. All right, so we have nothing left over. Oh, ran out of space here, but you can imagine there's a 0 down there. And our answer would be 1.6. So now that we've done this, we've solved for this, 1.6. Bring down the equal sign, bring down what we have left over here, which is x. I'll bring myself back over here. So 1.6 equals x, so x is 1.6, so that means 8% of 20 is 1.6. So if I wrote this as an equivalent fraction, let's go way over here, I'm running out of room. 8 over 100, or 8/100ths, which is 8%. It's the same as 1.6 over 20. So if you managed to do very poorly on a quiz that had 20 questions, and your teacher sent back that you got an 8% on it, that means you only managed to get 1.6 of the questions correct. So you got one correct and maybe a partial correct for another one. So that is how you use the is over of method. All right, and we'll take a look at what happens when you know the is but don't know the of. But we'll do one more example in this style just to. All right, so we have another example, 24% of 35. Now you might be thinking the word is not even involved in here. So if the is not even involved, then that means you probably don't know what the is. So let's set this up again. So 24%, so that always is going to be the same. It's always going to be over 100. So this time we have the number 24. And we're going to set it equal because we're basically just finding equivalent fractions. So of 35, 24% of 35 is what we're looking for. So again, the of 35, of goes on the bottom, the denominator. So let's put that down there. And we don't even have the word is. We need to find is, so we're going to put an x there. You could put an n there, m there, whatever you'd like, just as long as you know that's what you're solving for. So take a second as I'm changing color here to think what you're going to do next. All right. Now you could multiply 100 times x first or 24 times 35 first, as long as you set them equal to each other after. So let's do it this way this time. All right, so it's the same thing. You're going to cross multiply. So 100 times x is equal to 100x. And then 24 times 35. I don't know that right off the top of my head. So let's do that over here. So 24 times 35 is equal to 840. All right, so 24 times 35 is 840. And now you'll see the same thing as last time. The nice thing about percentages is because it's always over 100, any situation where you are looking for the is portion or the numerator, the part, you're really just taking this number, multiplying it by this number, and dividing by 100. You'll notice that as you do these more often. So 24 times 35 is 840. We have to get x by itself. So 100 divided by 100 gets rid of it. Now we do 840 divided by 100, and you can see all we ended up doing basically to solve this is 24 times 35, 24 times 35, and then divide by 100. So that's what we're doing here. So I'll move myself over here again. So 840 divided by 100. You can see a lot of these end up with decimals. Goes in 8 times with 40 remaining. Get that decimal in there. Bring down the 0. Now 100 goes into 400 4 times. Nice and easy and smooth. So it'll eventually, usually after 2 steps, will go in nice and easy. So 8.4 is our answer for x. So bring down the x, equals 8.4. All right, so now I know that 24% of 35 is 8.4. All right, so now we're going to do the opposite. We're going to do what do we do when we don't know the of, but we know the is. So we're actually not going to solve when we know the is and not the of. That's actually in 6.6, so you'll see a video on that as well. We're going to keep doing the same where we know the of, and this time we're also going to know the is. We're just trying to find the percent. So if you look at this, thinking of our equivalent fractions, so we always have the percent is always down here. So keep it on the left. So we're always looking at percent's always out of 100. whatever that part is, we put up here. So if it's 12%, we put the 12 up here. If it's 30%, 30 up here, etc. Then we always have the is and the of. So in this case, what percent of 20, so of 20, so 20 is going to be down here, it's the whole, is 3. So is 3 is on the top. So this time we know the equivalent fraction here. We know, so we're basically trying to find 3 out of 20 is what percent. So again, thinking of school, if you got a 3 out of 20 somehow on a math test or a math quiz, what percentage would you get on your test? So this is what you'll see on your tests a lot. In the top corner, teacher will write how many you got correct out of how many total, and then you have a percentage. So this is what we solve for all the time as teachers, trying to find your percentage. So the process is still the same. So now we just don't know this variable over here. That's what we're looking for. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cross multiply. So 100 times 3, and it doesn't really matter the order you do the cross multiplying as long as you set them equal to each other. So 100 times 3 is 300. You can set that equal to the other sides. So 20 times x. Again, we can't really do that, but we can write it algebraically. So 20x. Now, same thing as before. We're just going to solve for the unknown. The unknown is the x. So we have to get x by itself. So we're going to do the inverse. So we're doing x times 20. So we're going to do x divided by 20. 20 divided by 20 gets rid of itself. So now 300 divided by 20. All right, so let's do that over here. Probably could do this mentally, but we'll just make sure. The small space over here, 20 to 30 one time. We have 10 remaining. Bring down the 0. 20 goes into 100 5 times. And nothing left over. So now that means x would be, so we bring down our x over here in our equation. 300 divided by 20 is 15. So now we know that x is 15. So what percent of 20 is 3? 15%, because 15 is going over 100. Anything over 100 is the percent. So 15% of 20 is 30. So what percent of 20 is 30? 15%. You'll notice in these types, when you are looking for the percent, what you're really doing is, so we did over here, we did 300 divided by 20 and gave us our answer. So you're really looking at this and thinking your is, multiply it by 100, and then divide by this number. All right. So 300 divided by 20 would get you your answer. A little more advanced, you can think of it as 3 times 20, or 3 divided by 20, and then multiply by 100 at the end by just moving your decimal point over. But this is the best way to look at it because it works for any situation. So if we knew the percent and didn't know the of, we would just plug those in where they belong. If we knew the percent and the of and not the is, you could guess, we would just plug those in. So we'll do one more in this style where we have the of and the is, but we're looking for the percent. All right, so final one. I know it feels probably kind of long, but again, just move to the portion that you need help with. Trying to take them a little slow to make sure you're really seeing what's happening in each part of the process. All right, so last one we'll do here for 6.5. So what percent of 30 is 24? So what percent? So percent we know is always 100. All right, so you can always start there. And now on the other side, so we have the is over the of. So what percent of 30, of's on the bottom, the denominator, is 24. Is in the numerator, the top, so 24. And again, what we don't know is what the percentage actually is out of 100. So again, we're going to go through our cross multiplication. So 100 times 24 is just 24 with 2 zeros. Set that equal to 30 times x, which is 30x. And now we need to solve for x. We need to get x all by itself. 30 divided by 30 cancels itself out. And now 32,400 divided by 30. You'll see that these numbers go nice and neat with each other. But we'll show it over here. I'll move myself again. So now we're just going to do 2,400 divided by 30. So 30 goes into 2 can't go into 24, but it can go into 240. So I'm thinking 3 into 24 8 times, but we have these zeros as well. So 80 times. So, or sorry, that's incorrect. Whoops. 30 is going to go into 248 times. So 8 times 3 is 24 with the 0. I carried away there. And we have 0 left over. We bring down a 0. 30 goes into 0 times. And we're all there. All good to go. All right. So that means that this part of the equation would equal 80. Bring down the equal sign. Bring down what we have left over here, which is x. And we have 80 equals x, or x equals 80. So 80 over 100 is what we would have over here, equals 24 over 30. So 80%, what? We were looking for 80. So 80% of 30 is 24. So if you got it again, if you looked at this like a test score written on the top of your page, 24 out of 30 correct, that means you got an 80% or B minus. All right, so yes, long video, I know, but hopefully this is helpful. Again, ask questions if you're confused. Remember this little, not really shortcut, but this little way of helping with managing these different parts of the problem, figuring out what goes where, and use that for your advantage. All right, so thanks. Probably put up one more video, and so be on the lookout for 6-6. All right, thank you. See ya. Bye.